Hello and welcome to the Needs Language YouTube channel. My name is Nicole and I'm really glad you are here today with me. So today I am going to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer and the new Netflix special. To prepare for this, I just didn't watch the Netflix special. Instead, I went and watched the interview with Jeffrey Dahmer and his father and Stone Phillips. And I am going to, as I talk about this, I'm going to give a few disclaimers. I'm not a clinical psychologist. However, I do have a degree in IO psychology, and I want to make a few other disclaimers. This is a personality communication model. This is how we communicate our personalities. If I say this is how he's communicating his personality, this is like someone who's speaking German. If I say Hitler spoke this particular personality, that does not mean if you speak that personality, you're Hitler. Okay, that means that Hitler spoke German, you speak German. That does not mean all Germans are Hitlers. Okay, that would be asinine. So that is a very clear point I want to make extremely clear. Second thing, this could be triggering. Please take care of yourself if it is triggering in any facet. Another thing that I really want to make clear is that I really believe in our society, we do way too much of, oh, this person's narcissistic, this person's this, and I think we need to do more in our society of this person's unbalanced, because when you're unbalanced, you can get your balance back. And I think that is vital to be able to get your balance back because it gives you the ability to, again, if you're about ready to fall, I'm getting my balance back. So I'm a firm believer in that. So that's another thing I'm very clear on. The other aspect is we researched this model. We put nonviolent communication together with Hippocrates research using more modern day language. I would love for you to subscribe to this channel and write any questions you have below. I will do my best to answer them with what I feel comfortable with. And I want to say thank you so much for joining me. And I believe we should get started. Those are just a few little, things I want to start with. So one of the things I really kind of want to talk about is we all are communicating who we are and what we're feeling and thinking in the world, even if it's not fully direct. It's just we haven't been taught how to listen. In the interview, if you watch Jeffrey Dahmer, Jeffrey, I'm just going to say Jeffrey because I'm not saying his last name correctly. I don't know why it's just not clicking right now. He's leaning this way from his father. I really believe that Stone is connecting with Jeffrey in control. I believe that they're speaking control. If you watch Jeffrey, he speaks a lot of control language. Control his environment. He talks a lot about, I'm not sure if I was in control. I woke up and I don't remember what happened. That wasn't a control situation. He talks very monotone, very much like this the whole time, very almost robotic, very controlled. He is not talking in a way that is very expressive. I mean, when you watch me talk versus when you watch Ted talk, when you watch Jeffrey talk, you watch me talk, I'm like, hi, I'm here. And you watch him, I'm just going to talk like this. That's going to be more controlled. And from what I've seen of his father talks more right value. Now, the reason I said Ted a second ago is we watched an interview with Ted Bundy, and it was very interesting to compare the two of them, which if you're interested, I'd have to get enough people to say, "Ooh, could you compare the two?" Jeffrey and Ted, and I would do a comparison on those two, and how they both communicated in similarities. So what happened is Jeffrey was the other thing he did that was very interesting is he's like, you will not blame my parents. I will control the dynamic of how my parents are seen. I will be protective. And there was a point where his father started to say something, and he stopped his father and he stopped stoning. He says, I'm going to control the dynamic here. They are not to blame. I, and he brought a lot of self in. And he couldn't see people necessarily. He saw things more in some aspects as prizes. Now, one thing about important is very interesting, is important language is it can be about the self, it can be people oriented, but it can also be very prize oriented, very goal oriented. We can be very much about how to get the prize. So he talked a lot about, in some aspects, situations, but his control was, his like C was so big. And so we figured by the way he communicated, he was a CI. One common thing about CIs is they tend to not be as emotional, because control is about the environment and about the self. They're about people more in general, how they're seen, getting a prize, getting a goal. That's, they're going to be more concrete in some aspects with that. So that is how, with the new Netflix special, I figured, hey, why not talk about that situation? How was he communicating? Now, I'm going to get off on this for a tangent for a second, because I think this is super vital that we understand one thing. And I'll probably talk about this very often, because I think it's vital that we really, I'm going to pound this in. It's like it's like kneading a bread. You got to make sure your bread is all kneaded and ready to go. And I research a lot on like thoughts and like what we think and belief and those kinds of things. And so I really want to like hone in on this. I think it's the Tao talks about this, and it says, watch your thoughts become your words. Watch your words become your habits. Watch your habits, watch your words become your actions. Watch your actions become your habits. Watch your habits become your destiny. There's also a couple of Bible verses. As a person thinks in their heart, so they are. Take your thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ. Now, when they talk about Christ, they're talking about, from my understanding, the Christ spirit, which is goodness, love, all these good things. Okay. Now, the reason I bring those up is because he even talked about his thoughts. Jeffrey did in this thing. And he's like, I had these thoughts and I couldn't talk to anybody about them. And my thoughts. And he talked about the age they came. And he didn't know how to stop the thoughts. He wanted to, but he didn't know how to. And, this is where he was speaking things to tell people, this is where my struggle is. Even if they weren't like, hey, I'm going to go out and murder someone today. I'm going to go out and eat someone today. He was speaking stuff to let people know he was having a struggle. We all speak our challenges. We all speak what we struggle with. And sometimes it takes someone else to say, oh, there's an epiphany there, so we can heal it. Sometimes we stay stuck in it, and sometimes people are oblivious. My whole point in that is we have to be, one, we have to be aware to listen to ourselves. Two, we have to have others be aware to help listen to us. And we have to come at life in some aspects where we have to create a place of safety if we want people to heal, so that people can speak, especially younger people, so that they can heal and not be able to say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. How can you help me? We have such a fear that we can't say anything because we're going to deal with judgment, which is really super sad, because could he have gotten help if there wasn't that judgment there? Possibly. I don't know. But I am personally learning in my life, and I'm not midlife. I will not go to midlife. When I turn 100, you can call me midlife. But like, I'll have a fearful thought or a thought, and I have to go, no, I don't accept that thought. I don't want that thought, because I don't want that thought to turn into my words, then to turn into a habit. And then or a thought then turns into my actions, then it turns into a habit, and then it turns into my destiny. Now, I'm not saying that all of a sudden I'm going to have a thought and I'm going to turn into a mass murderer, or I'm going to eat people or kill people or have to, or turn. But what I am saying, it could affect me in a negative way some other way. It could affect others in a negative way some other way. So is learning to be aware. What thoughts do I want to have? What thoughts do I not want to keep? What thoughts do I want to have become my words? What words do I want to have to become my actions? What actions do I want to have to become my patterns, my habits, so that I can have that be my destiny? If Jeffrey would have been able to have that teaching as his grounding, as his moral compass, because he does talk about what his moral compass was in the interview that his dad told him what the cycle of life was, something along those lines, in the interview with Stone. That was the cycle of life. If he would have had a saying like that become his moral compass, would his life have been different? I know for me personally, as I am adopting that philosophy, and I used to have it on my mirror, my life changes. So I want to end it on that. If you are curious, I would go back, watch the words he says, listen. He talks a lot about control, a lot about environment, control words. The way he takes responsibility for what he did is not the way a right person would. It's the way an important person would. The way he controls and says, this is not my parents, do not blame my parents, is similar to the way I would do it versus the way a right person would do it. I know, because that's the way I communicate as an important in taking responsibility. And the way a right person communicates in taking responsibility is a lot different. And if you're a right person and you watch that, go, huh, interesting. And start learning how to navigate and communicate. How would I do that? Would I have done that the same way? Or would I have gone into if I'm value, would I have gone into my cost versus benefit? Would it have cost more to do that in that moment? He doesn't speak cost versus benefit. I can tell you that right now, because I one of the reasons I know I will never go down that path of what he did, I have cost versus benefit, and there's no benefit in harming someone. And there's no benefit in being harmed. If I come across people who want to harm me, I want to walk away. There's no benefit for me. He didn't have that. So he, those were the things that he wasn't speaking right language during that whole interview. And he did talk a little about right and wrong. He went right back into control and went right back into important. But he spoke mostly control. He stuck with his control because his control was so big. He really needed more of that. He wanted to speak control. His demeanor was very, and again, if you want, you watch people to see, like, you watch interviews with me and I'm like, ooh. And if you watch interviews with more of a control person, they're like this. I can tell you the difference. And watch a control person with a non-control person, and if that person is willing to receive the control, they will tone down. And if the person's not, whoa. And if the person wants to play with it, it gets fun to watch. So I'm bringing this up just to kind of share, just to kind of get you thinking. And we're all doing this because we're all speaking our needs all the time. All speaking our needs languages. So again, what thoughts do you want to keep that are going to become your words, that are going to become your actions, that are going to become your habits, that will become your destiny? So on that note, I hope to see you next time.